Welcome everyone to Nights in a Spike Down. We've made it to episode 4, and last week we got into our feelings a little bit, and this week it's drama mixed with must-win matches. I can't say if feelings are to come out or not. Of course, I'm Keith of Fortune, joined again with George Geddes. And George, we're going to start with a recap of last week. The Monday, I mean, we kicked off the Mondays unlike any other Monday. It felt like a non-traditional Monday with the Guard losing and Moist Moguls losing their debut match. I mean, there's definitely some feelings on that second game and the first one.
Yeah, I hate Mondays. I hate Mondays so much. And honestly, this just made Mondays even worse for me. Like, yeah. I was so excited because we were like, oh, you know, TSM versus the Guard, you know, TSM bringing in Kampeki, what's going to happen? You know, the Guard are still, you know, arguably the second best team in that group. Absolutely. And now, it's just like, what do we do now, man? Like, come on, you're losing to TSM? Like... First of all, it makes me look stupid because I was like, TSM's gonna suck.
You had their jersey on and everything.
Yeah, I had the Guard jersey. Oh, obviously terrible timing, but you know, it's just, yeah, man. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just cursing them. It's maybe that's what it is.
I mean, what's crazy? What's crazy about that win too is it wasn't really close. It didn't even go to a third map. It was a clean 2-0, which by the way helps TSM a lot in round differential. That's the biggest game for TSM so far, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I think in order for TSM to kind of make it to that kind of like the top echelon of that group, you do kind of really need to beat the best rather than just kind of beat like the lower tier teams, I guess, in that group. So beating the Guard is huge. Like, this is a massive win, especially the way they won it as well. Very emphatic.
Absolutely.
We still don't really know if this is like a honeymoon type period. You know how some of those teams kind of, whenever they bring in new players, they usually look quite good, and then slowly start to kind of tinker out, which is what I fear could be happening. Maybe I'm just a TSM hater or something. I don't know, but
could be. That's okay though.
Maybe it's fine. You know, but it's totally okay. So I'm not sure. We'll kind of have to see what happens. But I think that the way, as you mentioned, the way that they won it is really important, and also considering that they need to get that high placement in order to qualify for, you know, the mid-season event. So, I'm very happy. I'd be very happy if I was a TSM fan. That's for sure.
I would be too. Yeah, I mean, you're only -6 now in round differential. It's pretty good. And then let's talk about Moist. I mean, their debut match, you had Ludwig streaming it, you had Moist tuning in, and they lose it in such a close fashion to a Turtle Troop team who's been going through some turmoil, been going through some ups and downs, recent roster changes. A close series, a close match, but man, that's a tough one for Moist Moguls, and hopefully a learning curve for them from that. Underdogs prevailed on Mondays, it seems. Underdog Mondays. That doesn't make sense, but I'm saying it. I'm coining it.
It doesn't, but it's fine. It's totally okay. We'll go with it. Yeah, I think, first of all, I would just like to say Sim played absolutely out of his mind that match. Like, you know, like the meme of, I don't even remember what basketball player it is, but it's like the no help meme. Like, it literally is like, yeah, that was literally Sim that entire match. He got no assistance from his team whatsoever there. And realistically, before we kind of done like the predictions about who we think is going to be a good team and who might be a good underdog team, we kind of all had Breakthrough as one of those teams. And losing to Turtle Troop, it's like, really? Like, this is not the team that we, you know, this is not the team that we spoke about as this kind of team that could be challenging some of the best in the groups.
It was a tough series too. I mean, you look at Thief, 20 kills across 2 maps. I know kills don't say everything, but to put it in context, Sim was +19 with 57 over 2 maps.
57,
Fracture,
insane.
Fracture was 15-13. They lost. Pearl was 13-9. So, I mean, to go 34-17 on Pearl and lose 13-9, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that is like such an absurd stat line. I think we talked about Sim way back on the first episode. Of like, keep your eye on this kid, and if he keeps playing like this, I mean, come end of face off, come split 2, I mean, and Moist Moguls are around the same. This kid could be somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about like the likes of Sim, Scuba. Obviously, I love to hype this kid. And I think we also mentioned like Clear as well. All of these guys have, you know, proved themselves now. They played very well, exceptional. So we'll be very interested to see how those players kind of develop, because obviously we're nowhere near the end yet, right? So we still need to kind of, you know, figure out if they're going to be able to keep up that momentum or not. But yeah, very, very good victories for TSM and Turtle Troop. Definitely.
And then
I
guess on
they
the flip
both needed
side,
the wins as well. So
yes, that's so important to mention too. Yeah, must win matches week 3, week 4. It's super important. The other days, I mean, kind of went as scheduled. G2 bidding auction. Don't think anyone's surprised there. FaZe Shopify, FaZe winning. We'll come back to that. Wednesday went as planned. Disguise beating OR. Little rocky losing a map, but they bounced back. And M80, doing M80 things. They have 4 out of their 5 players, I think, in the top 5 players statistically.
Yes, they do. I saw that. Yes,
which is
I think it was only John. Yeah, it's only John, I believe, who isn't in the top 5.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it's incredible. Like, these guys have been playing out of their mind individually. Xander, I think, especially, obviously Xander and EU as well. Incredible. I'm extremely impressed with how they've been playing. I said, like before, you know, all of these guys have what it takes in terms of individual skill, right? We know they're all so incredibly talented, like individually. It's whether they can kind of come together and form this like really good powerhouse team, right? And I think we're definitely starting to see it now. I think it was, you know, a good victory over Mad Lions, another win. And I think they actually look a lot better than the Guard right now. So I would take them over the Guard. So,
and a very dominant win too. It wasn't. It was 13-6, 13-6. I mean, that's clinical.
Yeah, for sure. I think Xander's done a really good job kind of leading this team. I think Happy as well, from what I know, he's been doing quite well as the coach as well. So, you know, I'm very impressed. I think this team has, that, you know, the obviously run by the former XSET, leadership, and I think that they will definitely be able to take this team far. So
and I guess that's
I'm very
the one
impressed.
thing. That's the one thing we have to think about is, like, we know where their bar is, we don't know where their peak is. And I think that's important. We know where Guard's peak is, and can they get back there and climb over that hump again? M80, we don't really know. Ghost, they kind of didn't get that opportunity, and it's almost a fresh start for them. And to circle back to Tuesday's match, FaZe Shopify, interesting kind of balance of like the rise of FaZe, the fall of Shopify. That's 2 losses in a row now for Shopify, and FaZe is really starting to find themselves in that group comfortably in the 2nd spot. Shopify losing an auction, then coming in and losing to FaZe. I mean, that's a little bit of a downturn considering I think both of us had them in our top 3, maybe both in 3rd spot. Yeah,
it's starting to look a little bit worrying. I kind of had this thing last week as well when I kind of spoke about spiraling, and I feel like some of these teams do have the capacity to spiral, which is a bit of a problem. Whereas I don't think some of the top teams have the same kind of dynamic going on. For example, I think the Guard M80 aren't really ever going to go down that far, but Shopify, I feel like, could be one of those teams. Yeah, maybe I can kind of see them going down quite a few pegs, and that's never really a good sign. Also, if they eventually make like changes to the roster as well, you could see some of those star players leave, and that's never a good sign, you know. Like, so I don't know what's going to happen with this team. I still have expectations, but
absolutely,
it wasn't looking good. It was not looking good at all.
Yeah, and a team that's been together as a core, one of the longest in all of Challengers, you would really hope that they could keep, which is one of the most important things in Valorant. You hear it all the time, is consistency. Not only as your play, but as a team. You don't want to peak and then have low lows. You want to kind of know where your limits at, play consistently good, beat good teams consistently, and then have that peak in when you need it. So let's keep our eyes on Shopify as they move through. I think this week's match is extremely, extremely important for them against Moist Moguls. A must-win, I would say, for them.
For sure,
Unless they're going to make their last week's match really be the one that matters, and you don't want it like that. So let's talk about teams. We just mentioned Moist Moguls. Let's talk about XQC. Rumors of a Val team. The only one that's still unsigned is Turtle Troop. They're coming off a win. What do we see with XQC? Is it Turtle Troop? Is it an international team? What do we know about XQC?
Yeah, so I will say, from what I know, XQC isn't like baiting, and I think that's quite important, because I know he's kind of said this thing in the past where he tried to get a team and then it kind of fell through, and you know, it didn't really go so well. I think it was Mad Lions originally who he was talking to at the time, but now I think obviously, you know, prior to them being Mad Lions, obviously the former roster there, I think it was Dark Ratio, right? So you know, that was a while ago, but now, from what it seems, XQC is actually really trying to get a team. Now, whether it's going to be a team in North American Challengers or not, I don't know. Because you've got to remember, he is also, he's Canadian, French Canadian, that kind of stuff. So, whether he'll maybe sign a French team in the French VCL, that would probably be a lot cheaper. You never really know, right? But I think Turtle Troop would be the obvious choice if he was going to get an NA team. Mainly because it's pretty much the only option.
I was going to say, what's his other option? The guard buys them out? That would be...
I actually speculated. Yeah, I speculated in an article of mine actually recently. I said, when I was asked the question, who could XQC actually sign? And I made the speculation that with the guard potentially leaving, obviously, sense. The organization did cut off quite a lot of the employees. They're possibly looking to sell the roster. Yeah. It will go for a pretty penny, but if XQC really wanted a team, that's probably one of the best you can get. So,
I mean, if you want to win right out the gates,
I mean, we're not saying, look, XQC, if you're listening, we're not saying that,
you should buy
obviously
the guard.
It would be super cool to have him, obviously, have these kind of content creators come in. I think it's definitely helped for sure. I think viewership has certainly increased as well from what I've noticed, obviously.
One of the most watched Challengers leagues out of all of them.
Exactly. I think it is probably the most watched, surely. Maybe that and like Japan, maybe? I can't really compare
Japan's
the two.
Probably up there, I would say.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good seeing these content creators get in, right? It's just, it's, I think they, when people say like, oh, they might not know the scene that well, and I'm just like, I feel like they're actually quite clued in. Yeah, like... esports doesn't really make a lot of money, so you know what I mean. Like, I feel like they do kind of have the general gist as to what's going on. For example, Ludwig, I respect highly. I think he's extremely intelligent. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. So him and Moist especially, for sure. Even Toast.
I'm excited. I mean,
Toast is incredibly smart. So
imagine a league in where you have Toast, XQC, Ludwig, and Moist Critical all in the same. That's great.
Oh, that'd be great.
Unreal. It'd be great for the scene, great for the region. So I'm excited to see what that happens. Now, from an ex-player in the league, Will, teasing something's coming up. I haven't heard too much rumblings about this, but he says, expect the unexpected. Do we know what this unexpected thing is? Is there rumblings about this at all? Like, I don't see it being another challenger team. I see it being a 6th role in a franchise team.
Yeah, I think the most likely scenario is that it's probably if he isn't baiting, then it's probably like a 6th or 7th man, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. I think Mad Lions dropping him is like I never understood it. I really didn't get it.
Much sense,
I thought Will was playing fine, but I don't know. Maybe it was something outside of the team. I'm not sure, but. Or something maybe internal. I don't know, but I don't think it was because of his performance. I think he played like quite well during his matches. So I don't know. That'll be my speculation. But I guess we'll kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll find out on Twitter. That's probably where we'll find out. And speaking of Twitter,
probably,
it's tweet time, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Sound effects go crazy. This is your chance to get your question asked on stream. Interact with George Getty's tweet, which he'll send out once a week, and you could get your chance to feature on tweet time. The first one coming in from Nick Watts. Who, in your opinion, is the best/scariest player in Challengers League? And he got to get his opinion in here. And why is it LFT Oxy? I mean, to be fair, Oxy does have the most kills out of any Challengers League player. Maybe. I think, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty positive. And I would put him in the top 3, but there's a lot of unknowns still with Oxy, and I think there are safer options.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe, I guess you could argue Oxy. I think it's, I guess you can kind of maybe do it, but I would personally say EU, but
EU or Trent, right? Those are like,
I think it's EU or Trent, because realistically, I think, I think that we're also coming into a meta now where initiators are getting a lot more appreciation and a lot more freedom, especially because if you, for example, if you watch like the lock-in tournament where you saw like Chronicle and Leo, these two initiator players absolutely popped off, right? And I think they definitely are starting to get the appreciation they deserve. And I think EU is incredible. I think he's ridiculously talented. I always thought that. I think individually he has I think he has the skill to be up there with the best. And I think in challenges he's I think he's, he's good enough to go above and beyond. So, for sure, I think if buyouts didn't exist, he would probably be in the partnership league. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And
so I'd
the
say
next
EU.
one, I agree. I go EU, Trent, and then Ox. I think that's a fair list.
I think
now, from scariest player to scariest team, this one comes from Ari Valorant. Who's the scariest team in Nights Arena Challengers League? I mean, look, you asked this on episode 1, we all say the guard. You're asking us on episode 4, it's a toss-up in my head. It's M80 or it's G2. Now, the caveat to this is G2 have already beaten FaZe, and they've already beaten Oxygen. You look at who the guard have played, they've beaten DSG, OR, and lost to TSM. So
that's true, yeah.
On my logic, and you look at M80, it's like they've beaten OR, they've beaten TSM, and they've beaten Mad Lions. So it's like, man, have G2 played better teams, thus they have to be the best team? Or is it the logic of, no, M80 are still going to be better. If they end up beating the guard at the end of the season, then everybody's going to see it. It's so close between M80 and G2, in my opinion. But I think the logical part of my brain, it has to go M80 guard G2. That's my scary list.
Okay, I would say G2 because I actually have this conception where I think that if it got to a stage where, let's say the mid-season event where it was like G2 versus the guard or M80 or whatever, I think that the players on G2 have a lot more experience in those kinds of situations, and I think that's what gives them the kind of scary edge over the opponents. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. I feel like that is something that you really can't underestimate. And G2 has winners. They have serial winners on their team. And also you have, young guns like Oxy on there as well. So, and he's been popping off. So I genuinely believe G2 is the scariest team. Obviously, ratings-wise, we could say M80 pretty easily, but I think M80... I don't want to say they haven't played the hardest opponents, but I would say if their victories came up against G2 and the guard, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'd say M80 are pretty scary, but we haven't seen them play, so I can't really, but I would say probably right now, I would say probably G2, M80, the guard. Yeah, I'd probably go that as my list. Yeah,
I like it. Let's dive back into Turtle Troops. Let's quickly graze over the situation that's still kind of unfolding in front of our eyes. The Adder situation. Turtle Troops have had it rough. They've had to make roster changes, try to stay competitive. Now EG messing with Adder. Hey, come join our team. Oh, never mind. Oh, actually, we want you again months later. Oh, never mind. It's a tease. I don't think it's fair to Adder. And I think that's hopefully the general consensus, and not to blame Adder or blame Turtle Troops or blame other than the one team that's doing it to them. I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Quickly, I think I feel terrible for the kid. I don't, that's pretty much my sentiment. I feel bad. It's just an awful situation.
Yeah. I think if I say what I think, I will be suspended 6 months, probably.
I think that's what it says in the contract.
I think just having a look around, but I think, I don't know. I think obviously it's kind of bad, like for quite a few players in this situation. Obviously, Pancakes probably had like the idea that he was going to come in and play, and now you're saying maybe he's not going to play because Adder's going to come back, even though Adder was going to be out, but then has to come back in because of the rules, and it's like it's just a massive mess. Like it really doesn't look good for for EG at all, really, because of what happened here. But it's just. Honestly, I feel like you see this kind of thing quite often, and it's not great. So we'll kind of have to wait and see. But I would say that if there is one player that definitely deserves to be on a partner team, Adder is certainly one of them.
What a talented player, and slept on.
For sure. For sure. Like we were mentioning what Sim, Scuba, like Oxy even earlier, right? Like, and we were saying how good these kinds of players are. Adder's up there as well. So. I definitely think that, obviously also Adder didn't have a buyout because, Turtle Troops isn't under an organization. So that's another massive benefit, right? And absolutely. I think that, although it does suck, I think because of his skill level, he will be fine. Totally. Like, if he just keeps up this level, I think he'll be fine. I hope that he keeps it up, really.
Absolutely, and he only recently started to impress everybody. So we're just starting to see glimpses of him. So who knows? He could turn into a beast in another 3 months. Be like, okay, this guy could be on a franchise team. Now my favorite part of the week, because it's so amazing hearing George take his pick'ems. It's so amazing. I love it. He loves it when you DM him when he's wrong too. He loves it so much. Predictions. We'll start Wednesday, March 8th. When we're going to see our beautiful faces on screen. And let's start with the Wednesday matches. M80 Disguise, TSMOR. I'll run through my opinions first because they're based. It's going to be M80, and it's going to be TSM. Simple. Easy. That's an easy Wednesday.
I feel like we're so boring with these predictions.
We're very boring.
I feel like we always choose the kind of favorites, but I feel like it's quite easy to pick favorites because I feel like there's such a big discrepancy in skill level. So yeah, I think TSM and M80 100%. If they lose, come on, like this is ridiculous now. Like no, there's got to be something going on because those two teams, like they're winning.
Keep in mind how this week is probably the most important week so far. We said last week was kind of a swing week. This is like the determining you're getting your grades, type of week.
This is like bring your parents in, like you're about to get shown up. You know what I'm saying?
If Disguise win this, they're a lock. They're only up and coming in my book. They lose this, hey, you know what? I think they'll still make face-off. Things still be fine. TSMOR, OR fighting for scraps. If they can make it look competitive, that's at least a win in my book for them. And then Thursday, G2 Turtle Troop, the Guard Mad Lions. I'll let you be boring first this time because I don't see you making any hot takes here.
It's just, man. Like, I don't think the Guard will spiral, so I think the Guard will win. And then G2 Turtle Troop, it's like, I don't know if Turtle Troop can really keep up the honeymoon phase that much, and also the whole situation with Adder is so like sad. I don't know, man. Like, I'm just gonna have to say G2 and the Guard. As boring as it may be, I feel like we have our reasonings, right? So I'd say those two for sure. Yeah,
I'm gonna agree because I knew I was gonna say that. I just wanted to hear you say it.
Yeah, of course.
Friday, I think, is where we might be able to bounce off a little bit of differences. We end the week with Shopify Moist Moguls, and FaZe Clan Oxygen Esports. Now, with the downfall of Shopify and performance, their consistency, I expected more from them. Is it enough for Moist Moguls to get a win who are fresh off their own disappointing loss? I don't think so. I think this is a bounce back week for Shopify. And then as far as FaZe Clan Oxygen, hot take incoming. That's Oxygen's game to win.
You think Oxygen beat FaZe?
Hear me out.
Wow.
Okay? Hear me out. Right? They've had a rough go. Loss against Breakthrough, choke back-to-back 9-3s. You only do that once in a lifetime. Okay? They now take a map off Shopify, really close series, honestly down to like the wire. Then they end up against G2. They meet their maker. It is what it is. At least they have one close map on Haven. But I think you learn more than your losses and you do your wins. And with the players on Oxygen, they need a win, and they know this. And FaZe, don't know if they're the type of team to get complacent, but Oxygen are hungry, and this is a must-win for them, really. And anytime you put somebody's back against the wall, you have Scuba, you have Booney, you got someone experienced like Mitch. I think they can beat FaZe Clan, and I think FaZe Clan, important to note on this matchup, they beat themselves 9 out of 10 times in matchups. They don't play to their strengths, they play unconventional, and they know that's a coin flippy style. And I think a team like Oxygen can play up to that, or at least make FaZe play down to them, in my opinion.
I think it's fair. I think it's a fair thing, to argue. Of course, I'm going to completely disagree with you. I think I actually think Moist will win, which is, I don't know if that's a hot take.
Ooh,
I feel like I've still got faith in this team, and I think that I still believe that they can kind of do it. I think they can. So I've got them beating Shopify, actually. I think that they could potentially take it. And I think FaZe will beat Oxygen. I think FaZe have just looked really good. So I'm going to go with those two. So, yeah, I think we've got some disagreements. Always makes it, a bit of a spicy spicy episode, really, when we've got some disagreements. But we've got our reasonings, and I feel like they're pretty logical. Yeah. So I think it's fair.
Yeah, I didn't just pull a rabbit out of my hat. I did try to justify it a little bit. So we'll have to see. Hey, that's the episode. For all previous episodes, head over to Knights Arena YouTube. For news and coverage, check out Knights Arena Twitter. And you won't want to miss today's matches. They're starting soon.
Yo, check it out. Want to know if the price of those Wave Runners is too good to be true? Or if I Wear My Kicks 49 is truly selling dead stocks? Or if that Jordan 1 Royal Box is original? eBay checks. See that little blue check mark? Behind it is a team of independent authenticators who check. And we mean everything. Every tongue, check. Every toe box, check. Every corner of every box, check, 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 check. Every logo, every label, every lace loop. Yeah, it's checked. The luster of the leather, the topography on the tags, to the straightness of the stitching on the sole. Everything you can see, and even some things you can't.
Really?
Then they tag them, log them in the system, box them up, and ship them out, with no cost for the buyer or seller. eBay checks, so the moment you open that box is as real gets.
Welcome, everyone, to another week of Knights Arena Valorant Challengers North America. We've made it all the way to week 4. Feels like it just begun, but like summer camp, eventually it does come to an end and we must say goodbye to our friends. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and remind you guys to join the fan zone. If you haven't yet, you can head over to pks.gg/discord. You can get into the fan zone, interact with us a little bit on the show here. We do those post-game interviews and we ask questions for the audience. So go ahead and join the fan zone and you guys can figure out everything that we're doing there in the background and get involved as well. Now, if you've missed the first couple of weeks, I wouldn't blame you. The first two seemed like they were eons ago as the season started and we had a bit of a lull during lock-in. We do have a recap to catch us up to date how things gone across the first 3 weeks. Let's take a look. quite a bit of action across the first 4 weeks, but we do find ourselves here at this point, or the first 3 weeks, I should say, as the fourth week is just about to begin. Just in general, we've seen a lot of the storylines we expected to see. Teams like M80 doing well. The Guard had a bit of a hiccup last week, but they're still in a strong position. G2 looking good as well, but then there's a lot of teams that are kind of not where we thought they would be. Shopify Rebellion being one of them. FaZe even at times taking their licks. And then some teams who are struggling more than maybe we would have expected them, like Mad Lions as an example.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Shopify Rebellion's a team I thought would be in a little bit of a better position after the first 3 weeks than what they are. Also, G2 has turned out to be a way better team than I thought they would be. I mean, I certainly thought that they had potential to be a pretty strong team, and I certainly knew that they would, make it out of groups and make it to the mid-season event and stuff like that. But thinking that they would be 3-0 and having such like a high round differential is kind of exceeding my expectations of them. Like, this Oxy kid has clearly turned out to be a huge pickup for them, and that's been a big reason why you see G2 up on top of Group A. That teams really just come together with a nice mixture of veterans and young up-and-coming players and putting it all together and making it work. And yeah, as you noted, M80, that's the team that we knew was going to be really good, and they certainly lived up to that.
I also want to add, too, that when we look at this as a whole, and I know that we still have a lot of season left, well, not a lot of season. We have a little bit of season left, the Mid-Season Invitational coming up here around the corner as well. I feel like at its core, when we look at the way that things are playing out, minus a couple of things, this is what we could have expected, right? M80, X-Ghost, XV1, XNRG, the Guard, Shopify, again, probably one of those exceptions, FaZe, G2, I guess maybe not G2, but the players on G2, right? This is, when you look at who's at the top, these are the teams that have been playing at the very, very top, right? Top 10, if anything, for the longest time, right? Since the inception of the game. So now that we're kind of rounding out what is kind of our first look at our first regular season or our regular split here in Split 1, I think this right here is a huge wake-up call for the, the teams like Moist, the teams like Oxygen, the teams that have always kind of been in the Tier 2 scene, to now take a look and say, hey, are we going to be stuck here in this Tier 2 scene, or can we actually break through this barrier?
Looking at Group A, this is a really interesting week because obviously you can see there's a whole lot of 1 and 2 records. Obviously, round differential separating them, but a lot's going to change this week. Shopify Rebellion plays Moist Moguls later in the week, so that could affect how things break down. Oxygen has a game against FaZe. Turtle Troop, unfortunately, draws a match against G2 this week, who currently has the best round differential in their group and an undefeated record. So Turtle Troop's round differential might get worse, as they could go to a 1 and 3 record with an even more brutal minus next to their name. But there's still possibilities over in Group A. Group B did get shaken up a little bit after we saw the Guard lose that series against TSM, and the fact that they lost it 2-0 and still have a plus 23 is somewhat surprising, kind of illustrates how strong their round differential was coming into that week. But here's the schedule for the week. M80 versus DSG, that'll be our first game today. Then we're going to be jumping into TSM versus OR Esports, a team that has definitely taken their fair share of bumps and bruises. And then later in the week, it's G2 versus Turtle Troop, the Guard versus Mad Lions, Shopify Rebellion versus the Moist Moguls, and then you've got FaZe versus Oxygen to close out the week. I mean, Tanner, looking at all of these, there's a lot of matches on the schedule that are incredibly important, and this first one is no exception.
I think this first one is the one that I look at the most. Everything else, I don't want to say relatively padding, but relatively padding for the most part. We have kind of expected winners, but when we look at the match 5 that Shopify later in the week, I believe on Friday versus Moist, and then we look at this one here, this matchup to me is upset potential, the most upset potential in it. And listen, I'm weird, but M80 are so fast and Disguised are so slow. This right here, quite literally, are complete opposites that are about to collide in the server. I'm so excited for this first one.
It does. Looking at M80 versus Disguised, obviously, I think everyone came into the season prepped to see M80 walk away as a number 1 or number 2 seed in this group. Again, it was like kind of a coin toss, and it is fun that it comes down to the final week when Guard and M80 will finally play, and we can see which of the two teams end up taking that crown, at least for the group stages. But Disguised has kind of woken up since their first loss and has proven themselves to be a pretty strong opponent here in this group.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we look at the M80 side of things to kind of just respond to that point that you made. Like, Nismo and Qualanoob have lived up to the hype as far as, like, being very strong when it comes to statistics, very strong when it comes to getting those opening kills, particularly Koala Noob being one of the best guys when it comes to, you know, first bloods and things of that nature. He's really kind of lived up to that name. But then we had EU, who was a monster last week. He went plus 25 in their series last week, and he's currently sitting in the top 5 in most major individual statistical categories, including like top 3 for ADR and things of that nature. So he's kind of proven his value in that regard. And it's kind of just evidence of what we already knew, which was that M80 is an incredibly well-rounded team that has very skilled players in every single role, and they can get fragging from a lot of different places. But the flip side of that is kind of what you already alluded to. Disguise is starting to find their footing, man. And Exalt and Ziff look like very legitimate star players in this league for their roles. And clearly has the skill ceiling, but I just feel like he hasn't quite gained that experience yet and that like finer decision making and like those chaotic mid-round moments, like when he should aggress or when he should maybe kind of fall back and let the round kind of breathe a minute. But I think as he gains experience, he'll only get better.
And so when you look at, to kind of backtrack to what you're talking about, Dust, in EU, right, you see the stats right here. This is a guy who quite literally, so either top 1 or top 5 for basically every stat across the board. And if there's ever a moment that somebody, I think the name that we kind of look to, especially after week 2, even coming into week 3, we really hyped up Koala Noob. The only time Koala plays slow is when he's playing on the Sage. That's the only time that we've really seen it. It does not happen often. And when it does happen, you have players like this in EU that can basically get it done. I always talk about the Nismo Koala Noob dynamic duo. EU's doing it by himself. Not that he doesn't have help from his team, but this guy is insane.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like EU, as you're looking at the numbers here on the page, and then, you know, also Nismo, the ones that are like setting up Koala Noob and then also trading off the back of him, right? And then you have like John QT and Xander, who kind of can be in the mix as well, more in those late to the post-round situations. And so they just have like a really well-rounded roster, role for role. Everyone seems to complement each other very well, and that's why you see that people can kind of thrive in different areas. Maybe EU is kind of thriving in overall stats, but someone like Koala Noob, because of the support that EU gives him, is able to thrive in some of those first bloods per round and things of that nature, right? So it just all kind of connects. But again, as we pivot over to Disguised, this team is starting to pick up traction. You know, you can see the potential on paper when you think about Steel's in-game leading veteranship, you know, in North America. And then again, like Ziff has been kind of this nice mixture of being able to play some duelists but also playing some sentinel roles for this team. And then Clear is again the one that has that really high skill ceiling, particularly on the duelist, as far as just his raw aim and things. It's just once he can get that decision making down and more fine-tuned, I think that he'll only grow.
One of the things I'm seeing, though, that is a problem for Disguise is something that reared its ugly head last week in their series against OR Esports. It's easy to look at them and be like, oh, yeah, Disguise won. I don't think people remember how close that was. Map 2 goes into overtime after Disguise kind of fumbled away the lead. Map 3 also goes into overtime, then double overtime. I mean, they ended up winning 15-13. 14-12 was the score in favor of OR Esports on the second map, which was Haven. But it's important to remember, like, that series got a little bit scary. Now, they started off with a big win on Split in that series, but it was just consistency of their attack and defensive sides. It seemed like they had a problem connecting the dots. They would go in with an advantage in the lead, an 8-4, which was the half score, both maps, and both times, Dust, they let that slip.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely is, you know, something to be said about maybe just needing to polish some of their, like, mid to late round moments. But remember, this team has not had a whole lot of time together, right? Like, they aren't one of the teams in the league that had, you know, like a 3-man or 4-man core that they were just able to kind of put pieces around, like the Guard was able to do, or like M80 was able to do. They basically, kind of like some of the other teams like OR Esports and Moist and so on, basically had to build from scratch. And really the only competition that they were getting to play together as a 5 was the qualifiers for this event, and then what we've seen so far in Split 1. So I think that's just stuff that kind of gets ironed out over time as they get more scrims in, you know, as Steel kind of builds some of the protocols and foundations for the team. But what I will say that's promising for this team is the fragging that we are seeing out of a lot of their guys, right? I mean, Exalt has been mega consistent. Ziff has been mega consistent. We saw his stats on the screen right here. Like, he's nearly in the top 10 in very many categories, and he's 3rd in ADR. And he's doing that from, again, usually playing kind of sentinel roles, occasionally like a Raze or something like that. And then Gangsta is definitely one of those guys that's one of the better initiators in the league to kind of help support Ziff and Exalt. So, yeah, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Disguise and the trajectory that they're on.
And I would argue that Ziff is pretty exclusively playing supporting roles, right? And having those top stats, like you mentioned, like we just saw on the screen there. I also want, coming into week 3, that we have this huge layoff between week 2 and week 3. A lot of moving parts. We see some new maps kind of enter the pool. And I think in this team, like Dust mentioned, where you have a lot of moving parts, you have really strong players, sure, but they didn't have a solid core. They didn't have this incredible background together. So now, after you look great in week 2, they beat the brakes off of Mad Lions, the team's feeling great about it. We come into week 3, now you're looking at Vito's a little bit differently, your scrims are a little bit different. Clear still trying to find his rhythm on specifically the Jet. And map 3, or series 3, or week 3, excuse me, Steel just admits it, right? That was sloppy. We should not be playing like this. This is the worst that we could have possibly played. And there's nobody that I trust more than this mind of Steel to really kind of buckle in when it matters most, especially here in week 4.
You mentioned the mind of Steel. This team is going to have to use that mind to expand its map pool, and that's the same for M80s. We haven't seen these teams play on specific maps, which is a perfect time for us to transition into the map picks and bans for the series, because I am concerned that we're not going to see anything new. And yeah, there's the expectation. Icebox remains the ban for Disguise. Lotus continues to be banned for M80. That was their ban in the previous week as well. Then we're going to go to Pearl and Haven. Familiar territory for both teams. Then it will be a Fracture and Split ban, also echoing the bans from previous weeks before we end up on Ascent.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me because M80 has the least games played out of almost any team in this league. They weren't a part of the qualification process, and they didn't play any of the off-season events at the end of last year, or any smaller cuts really this year either. And so really the only 2 maps that we've seen them consistently play and be good on are Icebox and Haven. And one of those is going to be in here. It's one of their picks, right? Now, Pearl, on the other hand, is a map that they lost against OR Esports in kind of upset fashion, but they were able to beat Mad Lions in a very dominant fashion last week. So it's kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation for M80 when it comes to that map, and I'm not sure what version we're going to get. Whereas on Disguise, when you're looking at this map pool, certainly I think that they're very confident on Pearl. They should be. They haven't lost that map yet, and they've beaten several teams that are in this league, whether it be during the weeks of the split or during the qualification process. And they've also shown a lot of comfort in Haven, which could be the 3rd map. They lost to the Guard, but prior to that, they were on a 9-game winning streak. And Haven's been pretty good for them too. They're 4-1. So I think that both teams are going to be pretty happy with this pool. It's just going to come down to like whether or not Disguise lives up to the potential that they have, or whether M80 just continues to do what they've been doing all season long, which is just wreck people.
And I wanted to mention that this is probably the best that the Veto could have gone for Disguise. It's very comfortable maps. Haven, a map that could quite possibly be 5-0. They could be undefeated on it after losing to OR Esports, obviously a close one last week. That's tough, but it could be an undefeated map. I think what bodes very well for this DSG team is M80 likes to play fast. M80 likes to go insane. And we're headed out to a map that we've already seen M80 bleed on, and Disguised are weird on it, right? They don't run the duelist. They play a whole lot slower. They play more methodical. And I think that this could be the style that slows down M80. And I could be wrong. I would like to be wrong. I always want to be wrong when I say stuff like this, when I kind of maybe get outside my shell a little bit. But I think that it's the best map for them to start on and the best play style to really try and stick it to M80, get an early map lead. And then I would assume that if that does happen, we're going the distance, and Ascent looks good for them.
Both teams have lost on one of these maps. M80 lost to OR Esports. Who did Disguise lose to? Also OR Esports. Interesting that their picks are also potentially their kryptonite at times, as Pearl and Haven have proven to be somewhat problematic for these teams in the past. Now, you can listen to us talk all day. We can yap, 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 yap. You can hear Tanner Metro saying, like, I know everything. I'm an analyst.
Stop.
And then, but, I think who we really want to hear from is the players. And we had a chance to sit down and talk with them about this matchup. Let's take a look.
Well, my name is Drake Brandley, also known as Exalt, and I play Initiator Flex.
Okay, so I'm Joseph Allen, also known as Clear, and I play Duelist for Disguised.
I don't know if we feel overlooked. I mean, maybe, I'm not sure. I mean, after the 2 games that we played, I guess with Guard, I guess people were like, yeah, I mean, Guard's like, considered to be the best and stuff like that. And I feel like we showed some promise, but ultimately we got ran over. But I think with our Mad Lions performance, I think we showed that we are very capable of being a unit working together. And I think after the Mad Lions win in the fashion that we won it, I think teams are kind of looking at us now and be like, okay, like, hold on.
I think we're advancing super quick. Like every practice we're improving.
I don't really know if we have any expectations for the rest of Challengers. I think we're just very confident in ourselves, and we're improving every week, every single day, every match. And I think for now, we want to make playoffs. We want to make the face-off event. We want to do what we can, and I think we are very, very capable in doing that.
I don't think we have any high expectations, just probably ending in the top like 30. We play our game and we'll see where we end at.
I think I want to play M80 the most. I'm very, very excited, and I just want to play M80, man. I want to get in there, throw some punches, and see who gets knocked out.
The M80 matchup may be like slight nerves, but overall, I think that's a matchup I want to play. So it'll be very fun.
We just have to study M80, figure out what they do, and try to pick them off piece by piece wherever we feel that there is an opening. The confidence level for M80, I mean, it's high. Every matchup, I think it's definitely going to be high for us. Like I said, we're very confident in our game plan, and they're a very good team, very good players. I call them like the raid boss team. You kill one, you got 3 more raid bosses you got to go after. I think everyone on that team is the full capability of just 3K, 4K, and your whole team, the round is over. Anyone on M80 that I kind of have to look out for, I say Nismo. That bald guy is too good. He's too good.
Like it'll just probably only be Crawl and Noob. Even when he was on Ghost Gaming, you can see he just had games where he's just hard carrying his team, where he's just like an insane player overall.
Is there a team out there that I fear? I'm not afraid of anyone. I'm not afraid of any player. I'm not afraid of any team.
Just because I'm playing a certain team, I'm not gonna just like not peak. I'm just gonna peak everyone. I don't fear any player. Even if I don't perform well, I know my teammates got me, so.
My message to M80, ooh, I'm coming for you, Nismo. I'm coming.
Conversation is energized. The revolution will be televised. The retribution will be to terrorize. And the celebration will leave you mesmerized. Got the stage set, do it big, mega size. You want me believe you? Tell some better lies. I'm in the TV room, I'm doing exercise. I let the money flow, so I live a better life. Hey, live a better life. When I step out. more complications clouding up my life. Oh, I'm so done with waiting, gonna let me shine. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna get what's mine. Gotta keep on pushing, believe in myself. Keeping my head up, the best I've ever felt. Chase my doubts away. Believe I came to slay. Ooh, I got it in my sights, so ooh, I'm gonna get my dreams this time. I can't live without it. I'm not giving up this time. Oh, I'm not giving up. Ooh, give it all I got. Ooh, don't you ever stop. Just you keep on, keep on, keep on. Just you keep on.
Well, all right, we're jumping right into the agent select here. Unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to Bach, but we get to say hello to our two teams here in M80 and Disguise. And we already know that we're headed out towards Pearl, where Disguise likes to play a little funky dust.
Yeah, Disguise definitely one of those teams that can go with maybe one of those compositions that doesn't necessarily feature a duelist, which is a little bit different than some teams that like to pull out the jet. Or something along those lines. That's kind of where DSG kind of separates themselves. But obviously, both teams still, playing that double controller of the Astra Viper. That's very popular on this map. Both teams bringing out the KO in that initiator phase, which, obviously, Nismo's always been known for KO, and Exalt's certainly up there for that agent as well. No surprise there. Ziff deciding to go for the Sentinel, the Killjoy. Again, he's been playing a lot of Sentinels lately, so once again, don't really see anything there that's kind of too surprising. Whereas it's kind of a Sentinel-less composition on the opposing side to get that double initiator with EU being on his trusty Sova, which honestly, he's one of the best Sovas in North America, period, not just this league.
Yeah, and when we look at the changes, I wonder if this is a change specifically to try and deal with this Disguise team that does like to run down the clock. Now you have more tools to do so, right? John Cutie no longer on that Killjoy. In EU, we already saw what he did on the Fade, obviously just as proficient here on the Sova, but a really interesting change here from M80 coming into week 4 as they start on the defense, and we know that their defense typically looks the same way their attack does. It's aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
Here out towards A main. Exalt's gonna be the first one up, unfortunately the first one to fall, and this is M80 just starting things off the M80 way as EU will grab an orb and, well, maybe hunt for more. Fortunately, Ziff trades it back, but it's only Ziff and Clear here in the pistol.
Yeah, Koala Noob is literally the personification of the tip of the spear comment, right? Like, this man is always going after first duels. He does have the highest first bloods per round in the league. And I think it's also because he's well supported. Like, he has that faith that people have his back. Like, right there, you saw him able to dash out, and EU's able to follow up and get a third frag before Koala goes down. So, just a great little combination of jiggle peeking there from M80's dynamic duo on this A main position, which is still being well maintained right now. Disguise keep wanting to fight for it, though. They're trying to play with the Nebula, but Clear just gets spammed hard.
Yeah, M80 refusing to give this one up. Clear does collect the spike, but pays for it with his life, and it was only Koala to fall here in the pistol as M80 up to a good start.
Yeah, just exactly the way M80 wants to do it. You'll see that quite often. They are a team that does like to use their initiation utility to really try to challenge for this orb over at the long A side and kind of just like have faith in other team members to hold B a little bit more solo or be a little bit more focused on the B link itself. So again, you might see that a couple of times throughout the game, whereas of course now M80 gonna be able to weapon up here a little bit. Full save for the most part here for DSG. Maybe just spending money on utility, the one sheriff, that's it.
Okay. All right, EU. Guardian in hand, looking for some spam. Unfortunately, did not get it. Recon Bolt dealt with. And the orb retrieved. Oh, DSG also doing things the DSG way, playing slow, looking to play the entirety of the map. But look at that Viper wall on defense, right? Immediately taking away that space out towards B. And I'm wondering how that's going to affect DSG. Maybe not here in their anti-eco, but
Well, what it does is it allows M80 to just be way more flexible now with rotations. So like the fact that QualiNoob is this deep with this much information really lets them just like reinforce the speed link area, as well as have 3 men playing on that A side and, you know, have quick rotations to assist that middle if need be. EU's going to be tested first here through Art. Prowler coming his way. Smoke blocking him, but he's still standing tall here, looking for something. Maybe stayed a little too long there with that weapon. Gets caught by Clear.
And another Guardian just behind it. Nismo to take a couple of shots, but it's only damage thus far. One player falling the way of M80 puts DSG the lead, and with that, I mean, there's still a lot of time. They still have 30 seconds here on the clock. Playing around the middle part of the map means you can still make the rotations, and it seems like the call is out towards this B side. Unfortunately, Koala's still here, still a defender to worry about, and he falls off at, well, maybe one of the most awful timings as one pushes through the toxic screen. Clear dealt with. Exalt able to trade that one back, and that's what the Guardian they picked up from earlier here in the round. Unfortunately for Disguise, they're running out of time, but M80 are running out of defenders. Now Nismo gonna try his hand as he pushes on up, finds the first, can't nab the second. And Exalt with 18 health. Gangsta, a bit worse for wear. And a very healthy steal will work against Xander. The Guardian in hand here in the 1v3. This anti-eco going poorly for M80, and the round goes the way of DSG.
Yeah, it's really a combination of DSG's ability with that slower, more methodical play style to be able to poke and prod and create pressure at different points and still have that time left over to kind of fall back once they've manipulated the rotations of their opponent. But what I will say is I didn't really like how M80 overstayed their welcome on the aggressive angle on Art with a Guardian. That's just not the weapon that's really going to get it done when you're getting swarmed by a bunch of people at close range. It just felt like the wrong weapon choice to kind of play that aggressive.
There.
I think that DSG was able to really expose that and then just bounce back to B and eventually overwhelm QualiNoob, who just had a Marshall in the back halls.
And this really shakes things up. The economy in an awful spot as once more aggression, name of the game. Fragment can go out, flash to follow. Koala dashes in, dealt with almost immediately as Exalt
One enemy remaining.
happily grabbed their second steal. Also gonna hop his way into the kill feed, and John Cutie against the world here in round 3. It's not looking great. I don't think they're gonna quite find the outcome they're hoping.
No. I mean, this is one of those rounds that was kind of a foregone conclusion. I mean, when you get wrecked like that in round 2 and you're forced to take that full save, there's really not much you can do but just gamble push or gamble stack and hope for the best. In this situation, they tried to make the big push up A, but DSG was well prepared for it, able to handle those frags, no problem. They wound up taking the flawless here to go up 2-1 early, but money now back for M80, so that means full rifles across the board and an operator available for QualiNoob to allow him to maybe be more of that just kind of strong anchor on B and free up M80 to be a bit more aggressive elsewhere on the map. But you can tighten it up because obviously losing that second round was not really the start they were looking for.
No, not at all. Like you said, the over-aggression in round 2 punished. And that just bleeds into round 3 here in favor of DSG, where we get a different Viper wall out towards B. Not going to be the area the DSG want to play around. It's been all A. It seems like they just want to try and match this aggression that they're expecting from M80. In the last couple of rounds, they got it. This time, nobody home. It's a bit more measured approach here from the defense.
Yeah, again, just kind of trusting in QualiNoob to kind of solo B for now with that long-range angle with the operator. Trying to play a little bit closer out in middle. Aldrone going out, putting some pressure on Exalt, kind of forcing him back and getting a little bit of info. But at the same time, Nismo not looking to overstay his welcome. Starting to draw back. He's getting EU for assistance now. Trying to play maybe a bit of a bait and switch on the door. All command coming out, though. That really pushes EU back.
Forces him all the way back, but it's right into the welcome arms here of Nismo, who will look to find the first, but it's Exalt. The Nano Swarm will keep the rest of the team at bay. The operator's now here, and Zip, unfortunately, is not. The res comes through, and Exalt punished 2 times in the round. No way, Koala got another. Some way, somehow, and a beautiful recon bolt will secure the round for M80.
Yeah, that was really well managed by M80. I mean, yeah, sure, they're getting really pushed back on the null command. It basically takes EU out of the situation for a moment, but really great work from Nismo to immediately get down Exalt, and then that freed up QualiNoob to bring the operator over and start hell battling in B link, and then EU could start to kind of find his way back into the fight. So really good team play there from M80 to absorb that B link pressure and handle it effectively. That'll tie things back up at 2 apiece. Both teams still fully bought out. Only alt on the board is going to be QualiNoob, but it's going to be reserved because he's got the operator. No one really that close on DSG to an ult yet, except for Gangsta. One would get him the Nightfall for a good site take. Maybe they might look to challenge for that Aord to be able to do just that. But as it stands, we got a little bit of a pause. It's kind of early days, so not too much to hash out here just yet.
No, yeah, I would, if Koala was doing that to me in B-Link, I'd also punch a hole in my monitor. So I get it. Probably swapping the monitor. So he's looking at 2 people, and he gets one of them before dying. His 3rd kill on the round. That is, I mean, that's cause for a smashed keyboard or something.
Yeah, it's good to see him get the op fired up that quickly in this game. Again, I mean, M80 certainly dropped the ball in round 2, but at least recovered pretty nicely after they got their economy back to keep things at even at 2 apiece. Again, this map, Pearl, is a map that's been kind of a mixed bag for M80. It's really hard to read where they're at on this because they've only played it twice, and once was a loss to kind of an underdog team, and then once was a win. But again, kind of under one of the weaker teams in the league. We haven't really seen them play one of the more quality squads on Pearl, and as they come into this with a 1-1 record, it's just kind of hard to pinpoint where M80 stands. Meanwhile, when you look at the Skies, you know, a little bit more, you know, time on this map, you know, have won all 5 games they've played on it, including beating 3 of the teams that are in this league. So they have a little bit, I guess, more of a proven resume, you could say, on Pearl. But again, honestly, I think that's more due to just M80 not having the officials on record for us to be able to look at, because they are just such a new team that didn't play in qualifiers and didn't play in any of the kind of like smaller events at the beginning of the year. They really just kind of focused up on preparing for challengers, and so they were kind of shrouded in mystery in that regard. But we kind of just knew by looking at their roster on paper that they were going to be a force to be reckoned with, just based on what some of these guys were doing individually last year, whether it was, you know, the Ghost core that makes this team up, or you know, how effective Xander was as a controller over at version 1, or, you know, EU being one of the best initiators last year in VCT, playing for NRG. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that Crashies exist, he'd probably still be there, because he is that good to be playing in the partnered league, like, no doubt about it. But filler now no longer required. Let's get into it.
It's every week for Dust. He gets his hand on an EU matchup, and it does not cease. EU is a beast. EU is a beast in his own right. And
to be fair, I've been saying that since day one. Like,
that is true.
I've been a day one supporter of the quality of play he brings to the table. But let's see here. DSG is looking to load up fast at B. They've got way deep, too, of pillars.
And this is their own smoke, by the way. They're going to push right through that. A star down, though, and a gravity well from Xander. Will find Exalt 6 feet under that robot back to the factory. And unfortunately, that was your spike carrier. Steel also going to get taken off. This spam through. It's a bit too far forward here on the front foot for DSG. They just want to continue to test this angle. They want to keep trying, and they're playing to contact shore, but they're losing every single one of them, and Koala will continue to make sure of it. They traded back to an investor flawless the other way. It's M80 on top.
I mean, not only flawless, but almost no hit points even suffered in that situation. That was almost total perfection, as Xander just kind of bobbing and weaving through some of that utility, able to poke some holes in that attack right away before he can even really get onto the site. Then starts getting that follow-up from Koala, who decides to bring out the Blade Storm this round and give you a little bit of something. Try to get at Flashy. Will take the lead. DSG, though, still able to full buy, but those credits are very vulnerable now. If they lose this, they're saving, and that's where M80 can start building up a pretty big lead on this defense.
Bring them down.
It's that same A aggression here from DSG. Once more expecting it from M80. Nobody home, though, in this A site. Relatively vacant. A couple of occupants. They're at the leasing office. Let's see if this is a place that they want to stay, and it does seem that Koala Noob and EU will call this place home for now. They back themselves away. DSG also doing the same, and you see the anticipation, right? That something is going to happen out towards B-Long because of this wall we see from John Cutie. So clear, posted up on the opposite side of the map, and DSG. They work mid once more. This is the DSG way.
I mean, this is just the clearest default that you're ever going to play on Pearl, right? You're kind of leaving some presence on the extremities of the map, but you're looking to get a little bit of mid control, but you got to choose which one is it going to be. Is it going to be Art or is it going to be B-Link? Seems like B-Link is what's being tested right now, but Nismo trying to counter it there with the fragment as he backs up into the spawn area, kind of swats them away. It makes them pivot to the Art side. Well, this is where the operator of Koala Noob resides, and this is where things get interesting.
Oof.
Oh, that timing, bro.
The timing just narrowly missed. I don't know who survived there. Was it Koala or was it Zip? Either way, both still alive. That shot misses, uncharacteristic. And Koala was dealt with. The operator down as Exalt wants some more. This is the playmaker, and he's done it for 2. But he's traded out. The spike planted. Gangsta backs away, licking his wounds, and he might not even make it to safety as Zip decapitated. Long-range shots from EU. And M80 have already worked their way onto this site steal. Completely unexpected, and John Cutie happy to close out the round. M80 grow their lead to 2.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, you can give some praise to DSG on how they handled that attack. They threw a really big feint at B, putting a lot of pressure on Nismo, immediately pivoted to Art for an A split. They got the Opper off the site, and then they set up some pretty good little, like, crossfires on the post plant. But to M80's credit, they come in with some incredible team play. Like, they're always in the perfect position to get their own trades off in this situation. As you see them kind of move past Exalt. As they come in, they're there to respond with their own efficient trading. They were just a little bit more efficient that round. I think that's the key premise. And that puts them up 4-2. DSG, though, with that spike plant, is able to put through a buy here, though it does mean a Bulldog for Gangsta. Have a couple of ults in play as well.
In the economy, surprisingly for DSG, right after winning that anti-eco, going flawless into round 3, it's been good. It's unfortunate they haven't been able to find the results. This will be one of the last couple of buys that they probably have should they lose this round. So a complete reset on the horizon.
Right. I think the biggest thing that happened there was that their player Art didn't get into position quick enough to have that crossfire with his closet player. Like, he just happened to get caught on his way transitioning. That made the world of difference. But now we see lockdown being used on A to put the pressure there, but it could just be a fake. They may not even really look to split it. They could still go B lane, but as it stands, they are looking to attack Art and split this A site, at least for now.
Cosmic Divide out just behind, so no bullets through. But utility aplenty as Exalt takes the first duel and he wins it again. Exalt really having himself a game here on Pearl. That Hunter Shuri goes through it, splits the uprights for shots 2 and 3, and John Cutie trying to clear his corners. Well, he's met by clears. Exalt looks to get aggressive on the opposite side of the pit, which is going to keep M80 at bay for now. An operator that does not want to get into the mix. The spam on through Exalt dealt with. Gangsta maybe next up. Low HP on both the Fade and the Viper here as the spam is through, and it looked good. Unfortunately, on the opposite side of the wall was clear. That pit still stands, and the rest of the members for M80 can't quite say the same. Still plays the backstab here. If they don't find the kill on this Astra, these weapons won't be going into the next round. Nismo gonna creep on up. There's the next now. It's the operator. Koala, are you good for it here? Of course he is. A dash away, but stays within range of the spike and loses the op and the round.
Yeah, that's a tough one. He definitely wanted to be dashing away from that to keep the op in play this next round, but he still has the credits to buy it, so it's not the end of the world. But what you saw there was just kind of like a textbook, well-drilled out execute from the IGL. That combination of the lockdown, the push the defense back, you then trap him behind the Cosmic Divide to kind of force them to stay back for even longer, allowing you to deploy that Viper's Pit. So it's just like that perfect ult combination that kind of gets you around. But yeah, it's a huge cost to be able to do that, right? 3 ults spent just to get that one round. But it was really well orchestrated.
And it is aggression finally out towards A main for M80. 2 players push that way, not Koala. Koala's kind of been on B duty, right? And, hey, you push up aggressively and see what you can get for it. It's completely taken off. Taking late rotations off the board for this DSG squad as we get that same 0 point out towards the spawn. It'll find John Cutie.
Toxin screen down.
Ooh, and this might be where Koala Noob actually is going to get tested for the first time on this aggressive B angle. He spots a barrel, he gets his frag, and he's going to be able to get out of there. He even has a toxic screen that could provide a little bit of coverage if he needs it, but he's just kind of slowly backpedaling. Prowler will clear up close, but Koala's already done his job and got the heck out of there. Now this hit gets way harder for DSG, being a man down, and all commands spent to try to help him.
And Koala saves the dash, unfortunately won't be able to use it here. Haunt goes out, fragment to keep the Jet at bay. The shot goes wide once more. Meanwhile, out towards mid. Bodies are starting to drop, and it's not looking good for DSG as it's all up to the IGL. He'll take 1 of 4, but 3 still stand. And M80 will find a 5th.
It's one of those situations where they just did not have the trade potential on that first exchange. Like, Koala was able to get his out shot off and just literally walk away. Didn't even have to dash out of there. There was really no immediate response from DSG. They decided to force the attack anyway because that's the only map presence they really had was, you know, B-Link and through long. Try to get that null command used to kind of make things a little bit more difficult for Qualanu, but when M80 rotates into B-Link, they win almost every battle there, right? And this gets them those overwhelming numbers to close the round. And that's what M80 is just so good at. Their team play in those little tight situations to know when to peak, to, you know, make sure that the spacing's perfect for trading. They're just, again, efficiency, I think, is the key word for M80 all the time. And it's because they can get fragging from almost any role on this team.
And when you take a look at that last round specifically, right, round 8, where you see where Koala's playing, now DSG know exactly where Koala's playing. So where does the util start, right? Where do you have to hide behind a wall to then start throwing out the turret peaks, the prowlers, right, the flashes? It's basically from your spawn. The way that M80 has just been able to corral this DSG squad, they've essentially been giving up mid in fighting for A main and fighting for B main. And then, like you said, they just win every single fight that goes that way.
Yeah, they seemingly when it comes to rounds where there's not a big utility difference, like for example where DSG spent 3 ults on an A attack, which got them the dub, when it's come down to just like the more basics, it does seem like M80's just been a step ahead in the trading game. And a lot of that's because Qualanu's been able to find some opening picks, but it's also just been because how players are responding in B-Link area. Like defensively, M80's been very strong in B-Link.
And they mix it up. They say, hey, we're playing the A main, we're playing the B main this time. We want to try and play mid, and they've got the op on the angle. Fortunately, a Nebula smoke from Steel will actually allow Koala to stay on this angle with the dash available. This operator just continues to ring here. We've seen aces in this position, and of course Koala wants it, but EU takes it away. Of course it's EU to do it.
No, I'm an EU fan, but I am going to have to smite him for that one a little bit, man. Let your man get the ace, all right? He's out there. He's hungry. And yeah, it's an eco, but, you know, still some fancy fighting from Koala Noob here. Just using his dash perfectly. A great follow-up third on the steal. Definitely some flashy aim in that, despite it being the eco. They also now have 4 ults on the board on the M80 side, some of which could be very strong for just holding a position on the map and giving freedom for other players to rotate that Viper spit or putting it to use in some type of retake situation. I mean, Koala's just a freak, dude. Look at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's everywhere on the map. I think he's picked every angle, at least at one point in this half. Oh my god. And he's got the support, though, from EU, so it's not even that risky.
Yeah, a bit delayed in that push from Art, but yeah, eventually there would have been a trade should it have been needed. Cosmic Divide, though, trying to split this site. Another shot missed from Koala, but he's been good for it all. Now we'll go up and top the box here and try and make a play. It's Exalt to trade out a kill onto Nismo, a Resible robot. But it doesn't seem likely. Angsta unclear, now gonna try and work their way onto the site. They'll have to do it through a Nebula smoke, and Xander just sprays him down. M80 just on top of everything here on Pearl.
I mean, that's just so awesome to see Nismo use null command to be able to go out there as kind of like bait, knowing that he can get rezzed. And then that frees up Qualanu to be able to go through with the Blade Storm and find himself a frag. Meanwhile, you've already gotten the opening pick at mid. You've already been able to stick EU, essentially an attacker spawn, and cut off the rotation from the flanker. And then at that point, you're just crunching B because you got the numbers. I mean, again, it's just the efficiency from M80. It's a team that you can tell has put in a ton of time to build their protocols and to kind of build their little set pieces and to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
And it seems you almost want to kind of chalk it up to bad luck, right? Zips on that angle. Koala Noob's pushing it. But when you take a peek at it, right, EU was pushing through Art the whole time, so they know that nobody's market. If they're trying to lurk out towards mid, they have to be up. Top mid. And that's exactly what happened. So Koala just continuing to wreak havoc, this time out towards A main. Won't get any value for it. Last time on the Ecos, we saw 4 kills with the operator. We'll see how much they can find here as Nismo splits the team. Koala gonna be good for 1. The rest of M80 finding their way into the kill feed. And Steel. Oh, I think one of the only times we've seen Steel. Last one alive. It's only with 7 HP. It's only with the Frenzy. It's just incredibly daunting here.
Yeah, not much he could really do there. But again, M80 just such good team play on that anti-eco. They
round
have
before the switch.
Quanu covering long a solo. EU is able to kind of hold a forward angle on Art, get that intel, fade back, drone, continue to get information on the push. He gets that rotation from Nismo to drop the fragment on the entry point. And then again, they're just running DSG through a blender at that point where they have 3 people ready to go, knowing that long A is safe. They could just focus their full attention on the short side, and now they're up 8-3 with 1 round left to play in the half, and they still have 2 ults available for this final round.
Bring them down.
I'm wondering where we see, or if we see that pit of steel.
He's a
Okay.
freak. I said it earlier. The
All
man's
right.
a freak. He's one of the most aggressive
Solo.
Jets in this league.
And he just doesn't get punished for it, right? Who is going to be that team, unfortunately, here on the defensive side of Pearl against the attacking side of Pearl for DSG? They're not the team to do it. John Cutie takes a life with him, tosses down a snake bite, looks to grab some more. Zip finally finding his footing here on the server, and it's all up to Koala. Talked about him before. Exalt's trapped in the corner. No more to worry about. Through the smoke he goes, and I don't want to say it again, but Koala is doing freaky things here. Just needs one more. Has the angle. Oh my God. Koala keeps doing it.
Tanner, I'm going to let you know a little secret here. All right, just between you and me, okay?
Yep. Mics are muted. Mics are muted.
Yeah, there's no way NAB should have won that round.
Nope.
Like, the moment
not
that
at all.
John Q decided to force the issue off his snake bite inside B-Link and dies to Ziv, and then Ziv catches another coming through the other side, that should be good half 8-4. But nah. Your man Koala Noob, just an absolute unit of a human, comes through and clutches that thing up in the end. 1 versus 3, I believe it was. That's just ludicrous when you're getting away with that on top of all the like more fine-tuned team play you saw throughout the course of the half, and then now you get the individual antics from Quanu to be like the exclamation mark at the end of a very bold statement of a first half, man. Like 9-3. That's a big one.
And when
Again,
you
that was
look
between
at
just
this,
me and you. But no one
right,
else.
yeah. Now we're back.
Yeah.
Production mics are hot again. When you look at where we're at right here, you would almost think, you know, if you slow down Koala Noob, that's how you beat M80. But nobody's been able to do that. We've yet to see that. I think that this comp for DSG should thrive here on the defense. I don't know if it's going to be Exalt by himself here, falling asleep on the angle. Can Koala just to do it again? Completely seized up. The guy's got no health dust, and he does it again in the pistol.
I mean, again, I don't know how else to describe
You
it
just-
other than that he's just a literal freak. He just does things that other people aren't doing. I will say, in that particular situation, the first duel was just a heads-up battle. He wins, but he beat the timing on that first batch of utility with that dash. He kind of got a little bit ahead of it and was able to get a second frag because of it. The third one was bonkers, though. Like, the third one, I don't know how that happens. He's just a guy. And there's Ace. He's been
Yep,
looking for
give it
all
to him.
game. He's finally gotten it.
He's finally gotten it. He has to push aggressively by himself, make sure that EU is nowhere near. And eventually, Koala allowed the investor ace. And like you said,
he
yeah, just
beat that
beat it.
timing. Yeah.
The thing is, though, is I want to give props, right? The C's, the immediate double tap from Gangsta, understanding, whoa, this dude just dashed on top of me. I need to put the C's down right now. And had he let that go, Koala completely beats it. Now, it didn't matter at the end of the day, unfortunately. But, you know, Gangsta did things. Koala just did them better.
Again, just beats the timing big time, and now they're going to have the weapons advantage to start pushing closer and closer to map point here on the pick of Pearl. I believe this was DSG's pick as well.
And show me the OR team that beat M80 on this map. Show me. Back it up.
Yeah,
Back it up.
it's getting to be that time. We're starting to move towards that moment. Granted, this was a round that you couldn't really expect much from Disguise. They don't really have anything invested into it. It's just kind of the repercussions of losing the pistol. But looking like M80's about to waltz into a pretty easy 11th round. They're clearing the side of the map that is very much empty. So they're going to very easily get a free plant here in a moment. There's just not really any retake power for DSG right now with the utility and weapons they have on the board.
They're really only hoping to do some economic damage. Some aggressive forces here in the Vandals. Flash comes through, sees right behind it. Koala's just so good on the timing. EU this time will help him out. It is going to eventually end in that investor flawless for M80. They're second on the game. Koala now has his blades online. Vandals still fully intact here for M80. These guys are going to be backs against the wall. This is the best time, though, to start this comeback, right? 11 to 3.
Well, it has to be now. I mean, without this, your credits are in the can, and your opponents are at that point. So this is now or never, essentially. Looking like we're going to see a little bit of activity at A lobby early from both sides based on these Astra Stars.
Gravity wells both ways. Oh, no way. Koala hitting a bit outside of himself. Thought he can make a play through Art solo. He does not account for Ziff's position. So that's the raid boss down. This is DSG now in a comfortable spot here. A player ahead. Nismo backs away. They got to clear their way all the way through their spawn with 2 to positive inside A main.
I like the theory of
just
that.
yet, but
Like
it's a
they
good
knew
start.
that they were kind of forcing those players back into A site right to his arms through Art. But yeah, like you said, just didn't calculate for Ziff's position. But EU, he's found a pick on the steal. He's even things back up. Gangsta, though, is very quick to respond. Xander trying to do the same, but not able to quite land the shots there. Granted, he is only on a stinger. Able to at least kind of use a Nebula there to be able to pick the Vandal up. So they had 3 rifles going into B against just a solo defender of Clear. And his rotation's pretty far off, man. So there's still a chance here for M80 to get something going.
30 seconds
At least a spike plan.
And they're calling for it right now. Clear, able to get out of dodge, fortunately. Like you mentioned, nobody here in time to stop this plant. That spike will go down. Util available for Nismo, should he want to try and play the post. Still has the fragment in hand. Meanwhile, out towards mid, they're going to clear their way through Link. And all 3 players of M80 going to take their positions here. Gangsta shows himself once more with Util in hand, and he's met by John Cutie. A fragment to stop the push onto the side as the flash comes through. Exalt, unfortunately, did not connect onto Nismo with that in the Nebula. Block the angles here. Complete concealment, and now the 1v1 to commence, and it's Nismo out on top. Will finally get his time to shine. It's the nail in the coffin just about here on Pearl.
Yeah, that was really well done by M80 to take such firm control of B-Link. They know that no one's there, so they realize that everyone has to be coming through heaven or low side. And once they figured that out, Nismo and John Cutie able to run them through the blender. I don't think DSG was expecting them to all be holding from that spot. They probably anticipated at least one guy was back halls or, you know, way deep long B or something like that, so they would get maybe a little bit more room to work, but that was not the case. M80 never let them really cross the threshold of the site. And now M80's at map point here.
And the buy is, as you would expect for DSG, Clear once more, playing the jump peaks, this time a bit closer, and once more find his way off the site, this time a bit healthier in doing so as Koala. I mean, this guy is on a solo mission. He's playing a different game. This is not 5v5 tactical shooter. This is a single player game that Koala's playing. And this guy is about to 100% it. He's getting all the trophies here.
To be fair, there was a lot of utility that helped him get into heaven safely there. So that was a little bit more pre-planned than just Koala throwing a haymaker into heaven. But I like how he retreats back pretty quickly here. He's going to get some coverage from the smoke, but Exalt still finds a frag.
Exalt to be the one that slows him down. However, Nismo and EU just battle back almost immediately. There's not a moment of respite here for DSG as they work their way back onto this site. Tagged up and taken down, and if you blinked, you missed it. Map 1's over. It goes the way of M80.
Yeah, there was a brief period of time at the very beginning of the game where it was a little bit back and forth, and I think a lot of that was due to the fact that M80 just dropped the ball in round 2 and lost an eco. But after that, once they got their credits back, I don't think they really lost another round. Like, they lost 2 in a row, rounds 2 and 3. They lost 1 more, but ultimately dominated the game, right? And honestly, if they don't lose that second round, this very easily could have been like a 13-2 game or something like that. Like, this was just M80 all day. They always seem to step ahead.
Yeah, and honestly, that second round seemed kind of like the barometer of whose day is it for M80? EU, he hangs out, gets a little too aggressive, gets punished for it, they lose that round. EU, at that point, it seems like he steps down from the throne and he says, hey guys, it's not my day. Somebody else, it's their time to shine here on Pearl. And it was Koala Noob. And what hurts the most is when there's literally nothing else we can do here on the Desk Dust except for watch Koala Noob just run everybody down. It's hard, right? Especially when you're trying to find moments, a light at the end of the tunnel, anything for DSG. And any time that we talked about it, Koala Noob shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where Koala is just fearless, right? And that's something that you need in an entry fragger. You need that guy who's willing to sacrifice everything to take that space. Even if he goes down, he has that confidence that people like EU and Nismo are either going to help guide him into position with utility or be there to trade when he falls, right? It just so happened today, he didn't really need a whole lot of trading from them because he was just finding the frags himself. But again, he was well supported by people who are very nearby, throwing good utility, and he caught some really good timing. So, you know, props to him because, again, it's one of those things that we've discussed on the Desk pregame. M80 can get fragging from a lot of different roles on this team, and it just so happened to be that today it was Koala Noob's time to shine and just kind of take things into his own hands a lot of rounds and just push it as much as he could. And, I mean, he got away with everything, basically.
Got away with everything. A pretty strict diet of eucalyptus for Koala now. Toast on the menu. So starting to balance out this diet is Koala Noob and M80 as a whole. But I am still expecting a 3-map series. Obviously, the first one does not go the way of the Sky's Toast. And now they just have to rest and refit and try and reset as we set our eyes on Haven here in map 2. And it'll be right after this.
Do you want to ask your favorite player a question after their match? Or get their in-game settings? The Fan Zone encompasses fan banners, a player settings channel, and a lot more. Here's how you can join to gain access to interact with fellow fans, cheer on your favorite team. Firstly, join the Discord at pks.gg/discord. Select NA Challengers Fan Zone. Pick your favorite team from the drop-down menu. And don't forget to show off that banner in Discord and on your socials. And that's it. You're in. You can now interact with fellow fans, ask player questions, and rep your team properly.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems. A full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows. One of only a handful in the universe. Or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal. Because we know just how much your collection means to you.